Carrie Morgan was Cassie Ventura's former best friend, Carrie Morgan. She described witnessing Combs assaulting Cassie twice.
Cassie for 17 years, but things went sour after she alleged that Diddy beat her with a wooden coat hanger and she signed an NDA.
Did a single courtroom scene cause Diddy to lose all of his composure? When Cassie's best friend Carrie Morgan testified, you won't believe what set him off.
Cassie Ventura's former best friend, Carrie Morgan. She described witnessing Combs assaulting Cassie twice. The first time in a home Combs was renting in the Hollywood Hills. Morgan testified that, quote, "I saw him push her. I'm pretty sure he hit her." The second time allegedly happened in Jamaica. Morgan says they were in the bar area of a home when, quote, "I heard her screaming." She recalled guttural, terrifying screams. Combs faces the possibility of life in prison if convicted. He's pleaded not guilty and has denied all wrongdoing.
The sound of shuffling papers and hushed conversations filled the courtroom as everyone sat down for what they thought would be another court day. Even if it wasn't yet too tense, there was a discernible weight in the air. Diddy sat quietly at his table, leaning back a little in his chair. He seemed confident, as if they had the day planned out, and his legal team was at his side, reviewing notes. Reporters sat outside the courthouse walls, chatting among themselves, cameras ready to capture anything even somewhat interesting. Then, to the surprise of everybody, Carrie Morgan came in. That's when things started to shift. Carrie had not been expected by most people. Even though her name had been brought up a few times, nobody had anticipated her significance in this issue. Cassie's best friend, Carrie, came to the stand looking calm yet determined. The prosecution, who were clearly ready, welcomed her warmly, while Diddy's side exchanged uneasy glances. Diddy's eyes followed her every step, and his once loose body language slowly turned tight. The tone in the room altered as Diddy was sworn in, and whatever confidence he had previously shown started to waver. Not everyone in the courtroom saw right once that Diddy was losing it. He is known for his ability to remain composed under duress. But others who were watching him closely began to see the subtle hints. His jaw tightened, his eyes squinted, and he leaned forward with his hands clasped together as Carrie began speaking. Before long, the tension was apparent. Witnesses later described the event as tense, with everyone in the courtroom waiting to hear Carrie's comments and, more specifically, Diddy's answer. Then it happened. There was a response to what Carrie said. Explosive personal details poured forth like gasoline on a fire. Diddy raised his voice above the otherwise quiet courtroom and slammed his fist down on the table, interrupting her testimony. Media sources indicate that he was furious. One reporter said, "It was as if he couldn't hold back another second." The guards in the room tensed, clearly prepared to step in if needed. Diddy's tantrum was a whole breakdown rather than just a reaction to the judge's repeated demands for order. He shook his head and pointed at Carrie as he yelled aggressively at his legal team. His demeanor was a far cry from the calm exterior he had so diligently cultivated. Reporters later heard about the chaos from eyewitness. You could hear a pin drop one moment, and then you sensed that everyone in the room was anxious. People were really surprised. According to one witness and another court source, Diddy's lawyers were shocked and hurried to comfort him. The next break was filmed outside the courthouse, as reporters rushed to piece together what had happened. But the real question that hovered over the room was simple. What specifically about Carrie Morgan's comments caused Diddy to lose his composure? Evidently, her proof was strong enough to overthrow one of the most influential figures in the music industry. To understand Diddy's reaction, we need to understand who Carrie Morgan is and what her comments mean in this context.
Was on the stand. That was Cassie Ventura's former best friend. What did Carrie say happened after that incident?
Cassie Ventura left the Intercontinental Hotel, went back to her apartment, her home, and there was Carrie Morgan waiting. She said immediately she saw the black eye that Ventura had testified Combs gave her after the freak-off got violent and the whole reason why then the subsequent assault in the hallway happened. And then Carrie Morgan said about a half hour later, Sean Combs starts banging on the door with a hammer. It was not let in, but she said she heard him yelling, finally called some of Combs' staff members to try to get him to leave. Police were called, but Cassie Ventura said, and Carrie Morgan backed this up, that nothing ever came of it because Cassie Ventura refused to say anything about Sean Combs and what happened to her.
Aaron, I have to ask you, because Combs was sitting just feet away from Don Richard and Carrie Morgan in court today, how did he react to seeing them and hearing all of this?
He's been an attentive listener. In some cases, he would shake his head or nod along or consult with his lawyers, scribbling a lot of notes. This was an important part of the testimony because it made a turn, Eva. The jury had heard from Cassie Ventura directly about, in rather explicit terms, a lot of the sex acts. But the prosecution's whole case is that she was coerced into that sex because of the violence, the kind of violence that both Don Richard and Carrie Morgan said they witnessed. Now, the defense says there are other reasons for the violence. Jealousy, drugs, didn't have anything to do with coercing her into sex. But the prosecutors want the jury to hear these accounts to say that Cassie Ventura was not only telling the truth about being beat up, but that she had reason to then go along with.
Carrie Morgan has been one of the most critical voices in this case, despite her lack of fame. In addition to providing assistance, Cassie's best friend Carrie has come forward as a pivotal witness whose testimony might change everything. You have to ask yourself, what does she know that others don't? What was the reason behind the overwhelming impact of her statements that left Diddy feeling absolutely shaken? Not only are these intriguing questions, but they are also necessary to understand why this trial has taken such a sharp turn. Let's take a little look back. The relationship between Cassie and Carrie Morgan predates the use of courtroom cameras. By all accounts, they have the type of relationship that comes from years of trust and shared experiences. According to sources close to both ladies, Carrie is very loyal and has stood with Cassie through thick and thin. And what makes it significant? Because no one has lived long enough to see what happened behind closed doors but Carrie. Her testimony is more than just a statement since she has been close to Cassie throughout the years. It is a first-hand account of what Cassie allegedly endured. Carrie's relationship with Cassie is not the only factor that contributes to her reputation. Additionally, she has been described as measured, thoughtful, and not prone to speaking until she is confident of what she is saying. According to a person familiar with the matter, she doesn't do drama, which strengthens the case for her testifying. She didn't have to choose to be in the spotlight. Well conscious of the gravity of her role in exposing the truth, she took the initiative. But let's address the most important problem. What does Carrie really know? Carrie's testimony, according to reports, is not based on hearsay or vague impressions. She claims that throughout Cassie's tumultuous relationship with Diddy, she either saw or heard about notable acts of violence firsthand. She was described as the piece of the puzzle no one saw coming by one media outlet, highlighting the importance of her testimony throughout this trial. Despite the fact that the details of her charges were not made public prior to her hearing, it is clear that she is not holding back. According to reports, she provided details on cases of harm, control, and manipulation that might drastically alter the course of events in Cassie's favor if proven. Another characteristic that sets Carrie apart is her willingness to take on someone as powerful and well-known as Diddy. It's difficult to oppose a well-known person in a public courtroom. Given Diddy's extensive legal resources, almost everyone watching the case has commented on the courage it took to come out. This individual is not looking for attention, since Carrie's evidence suggests that she is dedicated to seeking justice for her friend at whatever cost to herself. It cannot be ignored. Here we are at this moment. Carrie Morgan has hinted at details that no one else was able to reveal, which together provide a disturbing picture of what allegedly happened. But the question remains the same. What was it she said that shook the courtroom on her witness stand? Nobody saw it coming. I can tell you that the allegations are explosive. Let's take a closer look at what was revealed and the reasons Diddy, and the others were shocked.
Joining us today, Cassie Ventura's former best friend, Carrie Morgan. What did Carrie have to say?
So let me tell you, Carrie Morgan is crucial, and she came crucial because she comes off as credible. Because one of the first statements that she made is that she came here because she was compelled to testify. She no longer speaks to Cassie Ventura. They stopped talking in 2018 after this incident having to deal with where she was assaulted by Sean Combs, where Sean Combs grabbed her by the neck and also threw a wooden hanger at her. But also that it led to Cassie giving her $30,000 so she wouldn't say anything about that specific incident. And that was the end of their relationship. She also corroborated 2 of the assaults that took place, having to deal with Cassie in terms of her being drugged and as well as her being punched. So she corroborated a lot of the testimony, but she came off as a neutral witness. And the defense wasn't able to break her as they wanted to, but was able to say that, look, it was still a loving relationship.
Carrie Morgan's testimony wasn't just another courtroom event. It was a turning moment. As soon as she entered the stage, the atmosphere transformed. Diddy and everyone else had been anticipating this testimony. Her comments were not only illuminating, they were deep. She described years of destructive, toxic behavior, such as manipulation, abuse, and isolation, that she allegedly saw firsthand. Carrie detailed the psychological manipulation that imprisoned Cassie, the bruises, and the terrifying moments when Diddy lost his fury. She related a night when Carrie said she had to physically step in when Cassie called her in fear. And it was the scariest part. The courtroom erupted in gasps. Diddy's entourage went crazy. The judge called for order. Diddy then lost it after being instantly connected to a violent incident, angrily smashing his hand on the table. It was the first time that the pressure was apparent. But once Carrie's shocking declaration was complete, there was still one question that lingered like smoke in the air. How would Diddy's legal team respond? Would they openly challenge her testimony or attempt to discredit her? As an eyewitness who had been near the truth for years and wasn't prone to drama or attention-seeking, Carrie was more than just a buddy. It was clear that her composed but impassioned statement had rocked the defense, including Diddy. As the proceedings paused and the tension mounted, everyone was sure that this trial would never be the same again. Diddy's legal team wasted little time in retaliation after Carrie Morgan's startling statement. As soon as the court...
I think she seemed to say things very matter-of-fact. There were definitely moments where there was a little bit of what I would call sass, which I didn't think was a bad thing. I think she presented herself very well, and I felt as I read what was being said, she seems like a very credible witness. I think this is going to be one that may stick out in the jury's mind because she was subpoenaed to be here. She is speaking in defense of Cassie, but at the same time, she was also very hurt by Cassie.
Yeah.
And the way that it all came out was very honest. So it's definitely an interesting one to go through.
Yeah, I mean, she's giving a perspective that it feels more like, I don't give a crap about any of these people, so I'm going to give it to you straight. I've moved on from all this, but let's go do it. And not really throwing Cassie under the bus anyway, but
no,
clearly doing it more honestly. So so she made it clear she was only there because of the subpoena, and she confirmed that she and Cassie, who met on a modeling shoot as teenagers, no longer speak because Ventura's boyfriend ate her. Now, was this Agnifilo? The Costco lawyer did end up doing this or not?
Yes, Mark Agnifilo, or as we lovingly call him, the Costco lawyer.
Because it's just funny, there's this buildup of he's finally going to do something during this trial. It was our first chance to see Costco lawyer step up to the stand, Kim, right? So
we'll get
as
there.
we go through, let's
there.
see how he does, yeah?
Yeah. It was
reassembled. They launched into a vicious, well-crafted cross-examination to damage her credibility. They had a well-defined strategy. Portray Carrie not as a trustworthy witness, but as Cassie's biased ally with a personal agenda. The defense highlighted her emotional bond to Cassie and suggested that her loyalty could have affected her recollection of the incident. Would you say you've always taken Cassie's side? One lawyer said, implying that Carrie's tale was more about blind devotion than it was about facts. They continued, highlighting instances for which she was not physically there and looking at inconsistencies in her chronology. But when she responded calmly and consistently, casting doubt on her motives and implying that she could have personal grudges against Diddy that might have impacted her decision to testify. They once again shifted tactics. As the cross-examination heated up, the tension in the courtroom grew. Occasionally, the judge had to intervene.
But now you haven't spoken with her since 2018. That's true. At the danger of being capital obvious, that's a long time. She's moved on. Objection. Why haven't you spoken with her? She did not support me after Sean assaulted me. I try that line at assault. I don't know what that means. Oh, I think it means I set the line at assault. I don't cross the line of assault or whatever. You reached a settlement with Miss Ventura? The money came from Mr. Combs. So this was after I believe she was assaulted by Diddy. That that in order to hush her up, Diddy gave her some money, or they settled it. However it is, that's a pattern that seems to be happening with him throughout the decades. So Agnifilo shows Carrie Morgan photos, then asks, "Do you know if Louise Hayes is a self-help author about self-affirmation?" "Yes." "Why did you send him this with words of encouragement?" "I don't remember sending it." "Okay. I want to show you a few more photos. But first, let's talk about the incident where he put his hands on your neck. Were you and Cassie using any drugs at the time?" "No." "What did he say?" "He said, 'Who is she cheating with?'" "You went to an urgent care and not the hospital, right?" Like she's saying just right as the answer. But you told the prosecutors it was bloody and you went to the hospital. "I don't remember that." "Look at this." And so this is material not shown to the jury. I see that I said that. Now in this, I think it's like now in cross-examination. I'm not sure what that means. Okay. I see that I said that. "Do you remember Mr. Agnifilo asking you about an incident in LA? Objection. Overruled. And he hit her like in Jamaica, arguing. Okay, that's what it is. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me go back. So they were doing right here. Agnifilo is Diddy's attorney. That's why I wasn't understanding. So they did the cross. All right. So now this is the prosecutors again asking her questions. They get to come back up. So that's who's asking. That's just like, why is Agnifilo asking a question about
This
himself?
court will not tolerate disrespect toward any witness in order to curb the defense's combative tone. Despite the court's warnings, Diddy's attorneys made it clear that they would do everything it took to discredit Carrie Morgan. However, despite their criticism of her tale, views varied. Numerous witnesses said that the defense had discreetly weakened key points of her testimony with strong blows. Others believed that Carrie was just more believable since she was able to maintain her composure in the face of criticism. The real question is whether the jury sees this as a pursuit of truth or an intimidation campaign. According to a source, the evidence that Carrie brought with her, the second important element, is also looming large over the trial. If it is as convincing as what she claims, it can change everything. Carrie Morgan didn't simply bring a story to the courtroom. She brought unquestionable proof. She did not rely on vague memories or vague words to support her testimony. The audience shook as she displayed text messages, images, and audio recordings. Among them, according to insiders, were real-time texts from Cassie that described distressing incidents and conveyed fear. Lawyers read paragraphs aloud, and courtroom observers described the material as unsettling. One witness noted that the judge's evident uneasiness throughout the reading served as more evidence of the gravity of the accusations. Photos submitted as proof reportedly showed clear scars that corroborated Cassie's allegations. The crowd became silent as the unvarnished, cruel, and agonizing photos were shown. Carrie claims that Cassie would send her these pictures to document the abuse and request assistance, often stating that she was afraid of retaliation if she tried to flee. But the audio recordings had perhaps the most lasting impact. According to reports, these files captured Diddy and Cassie fighting angrily. Diddy was allegedly shown ranting in one video in a way that was consistent with other claims of violence. One clip reportedly had threats that obviously alarmed everyone there. Despite the defense's attempts to dismiss the recordings as being out of context, the tone alone had a powerful impact. The courtroom was described by reporters as tight and motionless. Even some jurors seemed to have been swayed. Carrie Morgan's evidence was not only compelling, but it also fundamentally altered the course of the case. It was hard to deny the validity that her testimony provided. This trial has become more than just conflicting stories. Carrie's evidence has brought it to a new level. As this case progresses, one thing is clear. Her testimony might fundamentally change the outcome. Stay tuned for more details as this case develops.